Hey everybody, it's me, Liam from Inkwell Content, and today I'm going to be talking about the importance of outlining and planning when you're working on a blog that you want to perform for SEO or for organic traffic. And to discuss that topic, I'm going to be joined by Michael Draper of Two Wolves Creative. Michael is a fantastic web copywriter. He is a wonderful brand identity expert. He's a small business owner and recently took his first foray into long-form SEO blog writing. Michael and I got to work together because he wanted to make sure that his very first blog that he was going to publish was going to perform. And so we worked together editing, outlining, and planning the article together. And I wanted to show you what that looks like in practice. So right now I'm going to bring Michael into the call. Okay. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Liam. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm so glad you could join me. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm happy to be here.
I already talked a little bit about what we worked on together and a little bit about you, but just so people know, can you give me your introduction? Who are you? Where are you? What do you do? Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Michael, and I'm a partner at Two Wolves Creative. We're a design studio that helps businesses with their branding and their strategy and their web design and brand identity and things of this nature. And so I primarily started as a web copywriter and kind of moved into strategy and for branding.
Okay, cool. And like I was saying in the intro, recently you started to do your first foray into SEO blog writing. So tell me about that. Like what made you want to write this blog that we worked on together?
When I started my business, I was primarily the writer doing all the web copywriting. And so I knew that I wanted to develop my skills. And I also know that as a freelancer or a small agency, you can be on an island. So it was important to me to find a group. And I stumbled across through my research Right Minds, which is run by Jacob McMillan. And that's been a really great group. And that's where I met you. And so I was in our Slack channel and you were giving a presentation. And you were talking about doing content strategy and how that works and your ideologies. And I'm listening to you talk and I was totally sold. I really got an understanding of the power of SEO and content marketing for an inbound strategy through organic traffic and whatnot. And I knew that that's something I was interested in as somebody who was a writer too. And so I saw the power of it for not only for my own business in generating leads into my own funnel to keep continuing traffic through my own website, but I knew that if I had an understanding of it and I got better at it, good at it, great at it, that I could then offer that as a service to my own clients. So that's kind of how it started.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you decided you wanted to go for it, to try it out, and you picked a topic, which was modern logo designer. Kind of that's what it ended up being. But tell me more about how did you start out?
Was wrapping my head around keywords and keyword research. And through some, research of online, I discovered you could use like the Google Keyword Planner. I was like, all right, this seems like a good place to start. It's free. Don't know what I'm doing. It's pretty low commitment. So I got in there and I did my own research to the best of my ability, what I thought would be a great keyword to rank for. And I came across responsive logo. Mm-hmm. Looked like it had a pretty decent, search traffic, or so I thought, and low competition. So it's like, all right, this seems good. Mm-hmm. This is directly applicable to my business. It feels relevant. So I put together haphazardly a outline, as we'll probably see in a little bit, but it wasn't strong. It wasn't very structured. I had come from my background primarily in web writing, which is just website copy, which is just a little bit different than long form, 1,500 word, 2,000 word copy. So my first attempt at an outline was something special. And so I then wrote the piece based on my outline, and I figured, okay, I'm just going to cover, I understood the power of putting keywords in headlines and things of this nature. And so I put this together based around that one keyword. And I kind of guessed at the rest of it. I'm like, all right, I think I want to talk about this next. I think I want to talk about this next. And then I put together a piece. I got through a couple drafts. And at that point, I'd been so involved in it, staring at it, I was starting to feel a little bit lost. I was like, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
Yeah.
Does this make any sense?
Yes, that's the problem, especially for freelancers, right? You write all this stuff on your own, alone in your house, and you're like, is this any good or have I totally lost my mind?
Absolutely. That's exactly where I was. And luckily I had the foresight enough to be like, well, I belong to this great group. I heard Liam talk about this stuff. I'm just going to ask Liam what he thinks. And so that's how I got in contact with you at that point. I knew that I needed to get somebody with some expertise involved.
Okay.
So that's how we brought it.
Well, look, it was something special, but that does not mean it was not good. I mean, this is the thing. Why I like working with you is because you already have the writing skill. Like you have the writing chops. That's obvious in the work that you do and in the draft that you sent me. But you mentioned the word structure, and that's really where a lot of really talented copywriters fall short when they're working on long form content, because it's really formulaic what Google wants. And sometimes it's different than short web copy where you're trying to make a really quick impact and trying to condense your words down a lot of the time. Whereas here you're trying to create structured content that's enjoyable for a longer period of time. It's a completely different game. So kudos to you for trying something out of your comfort zone. And for what you did, it was really good first draft.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. What I discovered through it is it's very much a balancing act. Like because you have to adhere to a formula that Google enjoys and wants to use, but it also has to be cohesive and enjoyable for a reader. So you got to like make it nice for people, make it nice for the robots. It's a fine line. And I think that ties back to why you need to have such a strong structure in place.
Preaching to the choir. I totally agree. So that being said, I want to walk through the different versions of this that we worked on together, show the difference between what happens when you structure a piece of content versus what happens when you go into it and say, I have an idea, I have a keyword, I'm going to go. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to pull that up now. I'm going to just share my screen.
For those at home, be gentle. This is my first time.
It is always a delicate thing with this kind of thing, because like I want to reiterate, you are not a bad writer. I don't really work with bad writers. There's a certain amount of skill that I need to see in somebody to know that they can go forward and become a really good blog writer. And I already knew that from you, just from knowing you through the chat and through WriteMind. So here we have on the screen the first draft that you sent me. What I love about it is right off the bat, Michael, your voice, your tone, your style is like boom, front and center. And that's hard enough to manage on its own. Like a lot of people, they just have a really hard time nailing down their voice. When I read this, I was like, your voice is clear. I know exactly what you're going for. And that was really nice to see. But what I noticed as I was reading, my head was spinning a little bit by the time I got maybe to the middle of the article, just because it had gone through so many different concepts, all of which I could tell you were a really smart guy about, you were an expert on these topics, but they were just not making it flow for me as a reader. And that is the important thing with SEO. And I think I said this to you when we were working together. People are constantly looking for a reason to stop reading your article. Any word or sentence or transition that doesn't work is somebody who's going to close out that page. So when we write SEO long form content, we really want to make sure it is structured in a way that it kind of hooks the reader along step by step. And every time the reader moves forward, they read the next sentence and they think, oh, I've got to read the next part. And that was what was missing here. We had a really beautiful puzzle, but all the pieces in a pile rather than put together in a really nice logical way. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree. And kind of go back a little bit. I was so focused on the voice and having a point of view that it ended up in a pile rather than filling out the edges first, finding the corner pieces and filling out the edges. I started to get lost. My roadmap wasn't filled in.
Yeah, because you didn't have one at the start, which is really what an outline is. I think when people hear the word outline, like they go into this flashback to high school or college, where teachers were hammering home, you've got to write an outline with A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and then Roman numerals and all that mumbo jumbo. In high school, it felt like a time waster, but in real life, it actually is a time saver because an outline just makes it easier to get the first draft. It takes a long time to write what you wrote here. And then, a lot of rewriting was kind of needed to get it into that structured place. Whereas if you start out with an outline, what's really nice is you can just take the outline and kind of tug it apart like an accordion. And, that's what I kind of want to get into. So I'm not going to spend too long here showcasing this article, because this is such a first draft. And as I just want to just kind of show what it looked like, so that when we look at the finished product, we can see how much better it is. So we had this long conversation, you and I, where I sort of went through this. I read it. I left tons of comments in here, which aren't visible on this. That's fine. And, left you comments. And then we hopped on a call together and spent, about an hour kind of going through my comments and talking about, all this theory stuff. What was that conversation like for you on your end?
Well, it was great, number one, because it was able to shed some light, some clarity on it, and to hear it directly from you, as opposed to a little comment, which the comments were great, and it definitely gave me direction, and I could have fulfilled the request in those comments, but it was nice to continue to give them a little bit of perspective, I guess, and some context, hearing it directly from you. It's interesting too when you're getting critiqued, even though I had asked for it, you still, it's nice to have a little personality coming in with the critique too. It's a little gentler.
Right? I'm always afraid I sound like such a dick when I'm writing the comments, and in somebody's piece.
Sometimes the tone doesn't always come through, and your comments were all there was nothing that was I found offensive or mean.
Good.
It is nice to see them. But you do feel like you're on a team. Like, all right, I got somebody in my corner that understands what I'm trying to do, and now I get to talk it through with them. And it was highly educational for me.
Good. That's great the way you put that, on a team, because a lot of people, I think, when they think of working with an editor, it's automatically adversarial, because it's scary. You're showing your writing to somebody else who is their job is to not tear it apart, but critique it. And really, though, it's not adversarial. And any good writer, from Stephen King on, has a really strong, powerful relationship with an editor, and they rely on that editor. And so that's how I love to approach it too. Is like, I'm in your corner. We're working on this together, because at the end of the day, success looks the same for both of us, right? We both want you to have the best possible version of this blog live on your website. And so we're working toward the same goal. And it really is a team effort, especially because you had to do a lot more work than I did after I gave you this feedback. You're the one who did all of the rewriting and all of the planning. And it was amazing to watch you do it. That's why I really wanted to talk to you, because of what you showed me after this draft. So let's move on to the next thing you sent me. I'll let you describe it, but it was kind of like a quick outline just off the back of our first conversation. Is that right?
No, so this was actually the very first outline that I kind of put together.
Okay, this was the first outline. Yeah. That's right. Okay, this is what I meant to pull up. So this is the one that blew me away.
Yeah.
And again, I want you to walk through this, but so just to show you the difference between these two. So here we have 4 points with some major little bullet points underneath, a few ideas here, but this one, we have a lot more going on here. So what's this first part here? Research. So what happened here with the keywords?
So this is actually based off some of your coaching here. After you got under the hood with my last one, you took a very powerful SEO tool, Ahrefs, if we can say that on here.
Ooh, yeah, maybe those for me.
There you go. I mean, because truly it was a game changer after you got in there and said, actually, you're trying to rank for a responsive logo, and let's look at the monthly traffic for this. It's not great. I found this other one that's getting much more traffic and a very reasonable KD, keyword difficulty score.
Yes.
So that became kind of the North Star for this whole thing. And that's when I really turned a corner. My whole purpose was to build a piece of content that people could find and drive traffic. I need to make sure that this is in line with what people are looking for. Once I kind of turned that corner, that helped me structure, all right, this reader has a problem, and now I'm going to use this whole article to help them solve that problem, or at least let them understand what the problem is, so then they can make choices on what they want to do next. So that started with the modern logo. And then after that, it was about just building an outline based on these strong keywords and answering the reader's questions.
Perfect. That's why keyword research, when you're doing SEO, it's so vital, not just because you need the keywords in order to succeed, but the keywords point you in the direction of what people are actually looking for. You know, there's a time and a place for writing a blog that is just purely what I want to say. You know, I have this idea, I have this concept, I have this belief that I want to put forward. But the purpose of that blog is to get it off your chest and to maybe share a unique perspective. When it comes to SEO, you got to really shift it so that you're in the seat of the reader and that you are writing for what they are already looking for. Otherwise, it doesn't work. We hopped on Ahrefs during our call and I found this one. And you took that and said, what else are people looking for? And you found all these other options that then make it a lot easier to do what you did down here. So
yeah,
this is incredible. I mean, look, this makes my outlining look bad. You really went to town here, going through each section. And my question is, how long did it take you to do this whole thing here with the outline?
Because I have kids and my stuff gets broken up sometimes. But all in time, I would say this took me 4 hours to really dig into the keywords and then try to map out a reader's journey based around these keywords I wanted to rank for, which was way less time than it took me to edit and write 4 drafts that were rambling and all over the place.
Yeah, right. This is the thing. Like, if you're willing to invest the time in that outline, you're going to spend a lot less time, a lot less heartache too. I don't know about you, but I just feel so much more confident when I have an outline behind me. That questioning that you do when you're writing that first draft, oh, and is this right? Is this good? Should I be going this? Kind of goes away because you have this roadmap for your content that drives you forward.
Absolutely. And I think it took a lot of the stress of writing it out too, you know, especially as somebody who hadn't done a lot of long form writing. That was already nerve wracking to begin with. And so to know that I'm like, all right, I know exactly what I'm going to talk about now. Now I just got to fill in the little gaps, which is not terrible once you know where you're going.
Yeah, I love too how you've got your keywords and your H2s and each section has a little keyword to it. I mean, this is what structure and planning looks like. Exactly what I like to see when I work with someone and, you know, give you this advice to see you really run with it like that. I just knew it was going to be good. And lo and behold, you sent me the next version. I think I maybe made like 2 comments on the next version because it was so improved. And then we get this beautiful blog in the flesh. And, you know, not surprisingly, because you are a brand identity and design expert, it's gorgeous as well to look at. But just scrolling through it, to me, this looks like a really professional piece of content that I would see on the big blogs out there that cover this kind of topic. The way that it's broken up, the way that it's structured, it just rings to me of a really well-crafted SEO piece of content, and it's beautiful. So going from that detailed outline over to this final published version, what was that process like for you?
I mean, it was not to be too dramatic, but it was slightly cathartic, you know, like I, you know, struggled my way. I don't want to say struggled, but, you know, fought and worked my way through those drafts, putting together the outline once I knew that was something I needed. And then to be able to pretty quickly put this together to write all of this, it came together faster than I would have anticipated. And then I worked with my partner, who's a really incredible graphic designer. So I'm lucky in that regard that I could then go, okay, this is exactly what I need. And he was able to build some of these graphics. Because I also understand we're visual creatures, and blog posts, they can't be big walls of text, then people's eyes glaze over. So it was about how do I format specific bits of this to kind of pop out? How do I add some beautiful imagery with some good quotations? Am I adding little calls to action throughout the piece, you know, depending on how far a reader gets? Yeah, I'm feeling real proud of it.
Good, you should. I'm so happy. And like, speaking of which, I need to like get a design partner for my own business because I spend a lot of time trying to make my stuff pretty. And your partner knocked it out of the park. You knocked it out of the park. And
I know a design studio if you ever need help.
I know, right? There's the plug. It just looks great. And I know it's only, it's like 2 weeks old. So obviously we don't have too much information about how you achieved SEO. I want to check in again with you in a few months and see what that's like. But you have shared it around. I have seen it posted on LinkedIn. So what has been the response so far?
The response has been really good. I think they've enjoyed how comprehensive it is. They didn't anticipate that it was going to be a 1,500 word, 2,000 word piece that is really meant to be informative and a piece of learning, And so I think I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from that. They're like, yeah, I mean, this really walks you through everything you need to know. And then also at the same time displays your expertise or knowledge in this area, which helps your business build authority, which is what customers and clients are looking for. They want to make sure that you know what you're doing. And this is a really good way to show.
Yeah.
If you're doing a long form piece of content, it's a great way to go, hey, listen, I think about this, I work on this, this is my thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. You are the expert, you are knowledgeable, and you're helpful, which is like the most desired trait in the world, is someone who will help me, especially in the world of business where everyone needs additional help. Obviously, I'm not at all surprised to hear that the response has been so positive. I bet if we check back again in a couple months, when Google has time to get its act together and read through this and understand it, we're going to see this pulling in quite a bit of traffic for your site. And that'd be very exciting stuff.
I love the idea of building an asset for my business. This is like, like a piece of real estate, so to speak, that now lives out there and will hopefully be generating leads for me for a long, long time, especially as it continues to rank better and better and better. And now I have an asset.
Yes. Great. Okay. Well, thanks again so much for walking through that. Last question for you. Are you going to write another blog, and how are you going to approach it?
Yeah, I think because I'm fortunate enough that my business has been pretty busy, and so I'm working with clients a lot. But my goal that I think is realistic is I put forth one of these large kind of 1,500 word, 2,000 word posts a month. If I can continue to do that, over the span of a year, suddenly I've got 12 houses out there collecting people for me. And that's my goal, is to do one a month. And based on our keyword research, I will then choose my next one on where I think I can rank. Like the next one I actually think I'm putting together, I've got two ideas. One is about hiring a brand consultant, and the other one is about local SEO for small businesses. Based on kind of the research that I've done from your guidance, I'm seeing that there's opportunities to write there. So yeah, kind of letting that tool guide the content that I'm going to write based on what people are looking for.
You've got it down. You've got it down. It's going to work out really well for you. I can feel it.
Appreciate it. Well, I had a good teacher.
Thanks so much, Michael. I really appreciate it. You have an awesome day, and stay warm down there in Texas.
Thank you. Take care, Liam.
Bye.